After getting the platinum, running through New Game Plus, and putting about 100 hours in total, I kind of just want to give some of my impressions on the game, as well as some trophy tips for any of my fellow trophy hunters out there, and try and push anyone that's on the fence into buying the game, honestly. So let's dive right in. Starting off with the music, from the opening cutscene you can tell that a lot of effort went into the soundtrack for this game, and that carries all the way through. From the battle music for different areas, the background music during exploration, and especially some of the boss themes. I found myself listening to the music outside of the game because a lot of it is just that good. I don't do that for many games, so I think that really speaks to how well they did with the music direction here. The final area of the game, as well as the sort of super boss in particular, are a couple of my personal favorites. As far as the story, I want to avoid any kind of spoilers because I think this is the type of story you really need to experience for yourself. But I will set the stage with some of the events that take place in the prologue and the opening of Act 1. So we take the role of Gustav, a member of Expedition 33, which is set to depart at the end of the day following the yearly Gommage and the festival to celebrate the volunteers for this year's expedition. We learn that a lot of the expeditioners have a sort of theme. For example, early on we hear about the Climbers expedition, who set the various climbing routes for future expeditions to use. Where what we have is what's called a Lumina converter. It's Gustav's invention that's supposed to give us an advantage over the other expeditions, and we can become more powerful as we go, basically. We find out pretty quickly that those who set off on these expeditions are not expected to return, so the prologue sets some emotional stakes as you and your former girlfriend Sophie explore Lumiere and prepare for your departure. And just to quickly touch on the gameplay side of things, there's a good amount of NPCs throughout Lumiere that we can talk to who help give some context about the world, the sort of values that differ between those who have accepted the way of the world and those who are actively trying to alter it. And we're also given the opportunity to practice some of the basic gameplay mechanics along the way, and we can pick up one of the only missable trophies here as well. Now, after learning more about the Gommage, we attend the festival and we have an opportunity to speak to some of our fellow expeditioners. Gustav's apprentices are also there, and they ask us to keep a journal of our adventure for them to read when we return because they have faith that we're going to be the expedition that makes it back. We also get some more backstory for Gustav's sort of adopted daughter / younger sister, Maëlle, who we met at the very beginning. If you speak to everyone, we can also learn a little bit about the Fracture, which is the event that started the expeditions in the first place. And then after a rousing speech to motivate the troops, the expeditioners are ready to begin their journey. However, things don't go smoothly for long. Shortly after we set sail, we make some surprising discoveries and find ourselves separated from the bulk of the expedition. And this is where the mystery really begins to unfold. Personally, I was heavily invested in the story by the end of the prologue. I had a ton of questions that I wanted answered, and I was eager to progress the story and figure out what was going on. I think the game does an excellent job of answering some questions while simultaneously providing enough mystery to keep you asking more. Playing through the first time around, I certainly noticed the wide variety of different environments and themes associated with different areas of the game, as well as the sort of overworld, but it wasn't until the second playthrough that I really stopped to take in the amount of detail that went into building this world. And as I said before with the music, you can see how much effort was put into making something truly amazing. The footage I'm showing here only shows the things that you'll see at the very beginning of your journey. There's so much more beyond this, and for me it was easy to get lost in the gameplay. After all, that's what we're here for. There's a lot to explore and interact with. As you make your way further and further, you're constantly on the lookout for collectibles and enemies. But I mean, if you take the time to just look at the environment around you, there's a lot to enjoy in this game. This is one of those games that can be as long or as short as you make it. Pretty much from the moment you complete the sort of opening tutorial, you're given the freedom to either progress the story immediately or spend some time exploring, gathering items, and speaking to the people around Lumiere. I made sure to explore early and often, and from the trophy side of things, this definitely helped alleviate some of the grind towards the end. The game also does a great job of not overloading you too quickly combat-wise. There's a lot to the combat in this game, and the tutorials in the beginning can feel a little restrictive at first. It kind of forces you to do things a certain way, but this is ultimately to help you kind of understand the basics before things get more in-depth. You start off with a few basic skills, free aim, items, and the ability to dodge and parry. But it makes sure to introduce you to each new aspect at pretty regular intervals, and there's usually a tutorial type enemy associated with each new mechanic to show you when and how to use everything. And you're given plenty of time to work on mastering each aspect before it introduces the next one. And this continues pretty late into the game, but each new mechanic helps keep things fresh and engaging. In terms of exploration, the main path is often laid out clearly in front of you, but the game does a great job of giving you incentives to explore off the beaten path, whether that's a standard enemy guarding some loot, a stronger enemy that will test your skills a little bit, or sometimes a nearly insurmountable challenge that sort of gives you a sneak peek at the challenges that await you. And finally, some trophy tips. Kill the mime in Lumiere before going to the harbor. There are other mimes you can find throughout the game, but the one in Lumiere is the only one tied to a trophy, and you won't be able to fight it later. Then, during the festival, you can gather up to 3 tokens to buy something from each of the 3 vendors. For trophy purposes, you only need the old key, but while we're here, we may as well grab the weird picto from this guy. You can use it later and have it converted into usable picto, which is actually pretty good for certain builds, so we might as well grab it. And then lastly, you'll be introduced to the friendly Nevrons pretty early in the game, and whether you kill them or not doesn't matter for the trophy, just make sure you complete their quest first. And that's all I have. Thank you for watching, and I really hope if you were on the fence that you'll consider buying and enjoying the game.